Have you found yourself questioning if you are in tune or if what you're experiencing is actually a message from the other side? I've been there, I've done that. We've all experienced that. And in fact, we're taught and conditioned to believe that that's how we innately have to be. So, in this podcast, I'm actually going to be sharing with you a free Zoom gathering that I hosted all about spirit guides and really about how we can learn to start to trust our intuition, start to trust the right and the left brain, and how that can help us to really navigate and be empowered. Welcome to the Blessed by Angels podcast. My name is Jenn Gilbreth. Ever since I was a little girl, I have felt deeply connected to the angelic realm. Over the years, I have dedicated my time and energy towards delivering messages from beyond. Yes, that's right. I talk to dead people, although I don't necessarily consider them dead. In many ways, they are much more alive than us in this physical realm. On this podcast, I will be channeling messages from spirit. Whether you tune in each week for the new messages or feel like picking a message at random, this podcast is designed for spirit to lead you to the messages for you here and now. These messages have changed the way I view and play in life. I hope that these messages can do the same for you. One of the hardest things about trusting ourselves and about stepping into our spiritual connection, whether it be listening to the call from the ancestors, listening to the call from yourself, is this innate ability to trust. And in society, we have been taught and deemed that we can't trust ourselves, that it's not okay, it's not safe, we're unstable. And really, in this shifting, especially in this Aquarian age, we're stepping a lot into the mind. We're stepping a lot into the power of what we put out there. And a big part of that is questioning our limitations, questioning those things that we might hold ourselves back from. And even when we step into the space of self-sabotage, or we're like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, it's almost like adding grace and love to your space so that you can then be willing and able to trust and to surrender. And in this call that we share, it's all about trying to step into that space of trusting even just a little bit more. And also, it's important to just be patient with yourself. And that might look like going for a walk. It might look like writing in your journal and just allowing whatever to come in. Everyone's expression and connection is going to be different. And that is a good thing. There's not a one way, a one size fits all when it comes to connecting to our ancestors. And it's okay for us to give ourselves permission to explore things that align and to make us feel very joyous and excited. So without further ado, here is the call. So, along with that, a lot of times when I'm honing in and doing mediumship readings, I always like to describe how I can connect into our guide, like our loved ones. And I use it kind of like a dial. And if you think about our right brain and our left brain, my mom always taught me you have your right brain and your left brain. And your left brain is a lot more analytical. It questions things, it gets things done, it's the driver. And then you have the right brain, which is the creative, it's the free flowing, it's the receiving side. So in life, of course, we have both. We have the divine masculine, the divine feminine, the right and the left. And we have this beautiful union between the two, or we strive for that at least. It's not always the case, but as we're striving for it, it can bring a better sense of balance. But it's almost like when we're delivering or connecting into our guides, in order for us to feel that connection, I like to imagine turning down the volume on the left side and turning up the volume on the right side. And in doing so and setting that intention, it's allowing the ego or the physical, the questioning, the mental aspect of like, oh, I can't have this. And what about this? And we make it so complicated. So when we turn that down and we turn the volume up on our spirit self, on our creative self, on our receiving self, we're opening up the flow for a higher connection and for it to be stronger. But it's also allowing us to surrender and to trust that which is coming in. And so before moving forward, I wanted to just take a little exercise and just have you Shake it out, shake your shoulders, get comfortable. Place your hand on your heart, rolling your shoulders, maybe your neck, whatever you need to do to feel comfortable and centered. And I want you to energetically imagine that there is this frequency of waves or sound all around you. Maybe you can hear your favorite song, or maybe just noticing the energy around you, or even in your physical environment, what you're hearing. And now I want you to imagine, and even as you talk to the left side or as you touch your left ear, I want you to just imagine turning your ear or turning the volume down and giving yourself space to just sit with that energy of turning it down, of surrendering to fear, of surrendering disapproval, uncertainty, questioning yourself. And then as you touch your right ear, I want you to acknowledge how it feels and turn it or activate it, turn the volume up, however you want to do so. And to just notice the frequency. And as you activate this, it's also important to maybe acknowledge things that bring you joy. Once again, saying things that you love about yourself or that you love about life right now. What's going on in your life? Penny, you found this amazing clock. And being guided to go to that specific thrift store to find that clock, it's like, I'm so grateful for that. And as we can acknowledge the difference between the chaos, closing down or turning down the chaos and turning up the receiving, it gives us a better sense of purpose so that we can start to trust ourselves. So now that we've done that, go ahead and open your eyes or just become present in the moment. And just notice how you're feeling. Notice what's going on inside of you, what you're experiencing around you. And don't make any of it bad or wrong. We're here, we're human. Maybe you have kids screaming in the background. That's totally fine. It's okay to give yourself permission. Nothing's going to be perfect. We're going to always have distractions going on. And that's when we're like, okay, where am I at? I need to turn it up, or I need to turn it down. Or sometimes we have such a low frequency that we just feel like a dead doorknob and we're not connected to anything. Nothing excites us. We feel like we're in zombie mode. That's the perfect time to connect back into your ears and notice the frequency. Am I at 100%? Am I at 50%? Am I at 10%? And it's almost like when we can be aware of that, we can ask our guides or whatever we need to do to raise that frequency so that we can feel that connection. And sometimes we need to be more in our analytical brain. Sometimes we have things we got to get done. And if we're constantly in the space of flow and just like don't have the energy, it's like, I got to turn this up so I can have energy and clarity to move forward. And when we want to sit and receive and have that connection, it's raising that frequency and then trying to find a balance in between the two when we can. It's something as simple as connecting in, turning the frequency up or down, and having this connection. So as we've raised our right frequency all the way to 100, and let's put like our left brain to maybe 20, 15, 20, so that we can have that space and that connection that we feel flowing and trusting and honestly part of who we are. And there's no need to shame the analytical side. There's no need to be like, oh, this keeps showing up when we're meditating. It's like, sometimes I can't meditate. Well, maybe you need to go for a walk instead of meditate and sit and hum, because maybe that's not what you need right now. And so it's okay to just experience that. We all have our unique expressions, our unique experiences, and our guides are going to connect to us in different ways all the time. We're constantly growing and evolving. And so maybe one way they connect to us isn't going to stick with us our whole life. Maybe it's going to be changing as we're changing. Maybe they're going to start showing up for us in ways that we can trust in a deeper way. So they might show up in different ways that we're learning to trust those intuitions and those promptings. So Any thoughts or questions, please go ahead and comment them or unmute, and you can share whatever you would like. But along with that, I feel like it's important for us to remember that everything has an essence. Everything has a spirit. Every being around us has a spirit. We have our animals, our loved ones, ourself, the plants, the grass, being outside, the water. Everything has an essence. It has a spirit, and it was created in the image of connection, of guidance, of support. And when we feel disconnected, we're forgetting the essence of who we are. So if we all have an essence, if our animals, if our children, if the plants, if all those things have a spirit, of course there's going to be spirits in the other planes that are going to help us and to be here with us so that we can navigate and move forward. They want to be a part of all of that. So I wanted us to just take a moment to think about, or if you have a pen and a paper, to first just connect into your own spirit, to know that you have a spirit and that your spirit is powerful. And so if you just take a moment to turn up the volume on the right, and maybe it's even in the message, just type, "My spirit is," and just allow whatever words to come to you. Who is your spirit? What is your spirit? I would love to see in the comments what people have written, or even in a journal, My spirit, me, Cassidy, my spirit is Lindy, my spirit is Penny, my spirit is. And just give yourself permission to write the first few things down that are showing up for you. Who is your spirit? And you might find yourself trying to have the left side find the perfect answer or find the right thing to say or how it needs to be. But when we can surrender, turn the volume down, turn it up on the right, and say, "My spirit is." Christine wrote joyful. My spirit is joyful. What else is your spirit? When I connect in, I feel like my spirit is creative and spunky and trusting and self-expressed, powerful. What is your spirit? Please, please, please write them in the comments. I love seeing these things. And it's just trusting the first things that pop into your head or into your heart or into your body. There's no need to overcomplicate anything. And then next, let's switch it. Let's think of a family member or a loved one. And I want you to think of that person. Their spirit is. Penny says, "My spirit is caring and sacred." I love that. Now let's shift the energy to somebody that we love. Maybe a spouse or a child or a best friend. And think about them. Think about their face in your mind. And who is their spirit? What does their spirit talk to you like? How do they show up for you? How would you describe that person's spirit? We so easily have conversations where like, "Oh, you're so good at this and you're that and you're this and you're that." And it's almost like going a little bit deeper. Who is your spirit? Who is their spirit? What does their spirit have to share with you? And it's simple. It's those simple things that first pop up into our mind. And then we might think, okay, how do I go deeper? How do I create more sacred? How do I create more heart-centered connection? Breathing it down into your stomach and allowing that to be part of this expression. Part of my spirit likes to move my hands a lot and to shift energy through breath, through breathing, through moving. It's part of this expression that my spirit has. My physical body typically would like to be timid, but when I'm in my element, I'm like moving my arms, being crazy, more expressive than normal, you could say. So when we can connect into that everything has an essence. Every being around us is a spirit. Every person is here navigating this human journey. And we also have a guidance of who we are: joyful, caring, sacred, crazy, outgoing, fun. Think about the children that you have around you. How are they? My loved one's spirit is happy and determined. I love that. And happy can be really great and spunky, and sometimes determined can be great and spunky, and sometimes it can be a push, a drive, a motivation. And when we know that's part of their spirit's expression, we can give them a little bit more freedom to be them, right? It's like, oh, their spirit came here to be determined and to be happy. And so maybe when they're not happy or when they're feeling lethargic, it's like, hey, your spirit is typically happy and determined. How can we help you find that determination again? What do you need to go do to play to boost that happiness so then you can be determined again? It can be as simple as that. You know, my husband, Curtis, his spirit is a renegade and is very caring and playful and fun. And knowing that if he's feeling sad or determined or stuck or uncertain of things, it's like, well, go have fun, go do something that brings back your expression, and then you're reconnected. You're bringing balance back to both the right and the left together, with them working together. So when we can connect into that essence, connecting into that space, it almost like opens up a different sense of trust, and it makes things feel a little bit more easy flowing. And maybe that's something to practice when you're seeing somebody and you're having a conversation like, wow, their spirit is this and this and this. Or your animals, my dog's spirit is this and this. And when we can recognize spirit to spirit, essence to essence, it opens up a different space of sacredness in life. It helps us to see someone at the core of who they are versus maybe the shadows, the trauma, the stress they're living in. Because our guides, our loved ones, see us as spirit to spirit. Even though we could be doing the worst stuff, we could be feeling like we're not ourselves, we're acting out of fear, out of trauma, out of drama, and we're making decisions that aren't in our authentic space. Our guides see us spirit to spirit. They see who we innately are, maybe not the choices that we're making, but they see who we innately are, and they're here to help boost us so that we can remember who our essence is and what our essence is. And if you're having this shift of life, if maybe you're in a space of, man, I used to think this, I used to be this way, and I'm shifting into this new perspective. Every 7 years, we have a 7-year cycles where we're learning different lessons, we're becoming a different human. And in those cycles, certain things make sense to us and other times they don't. And then it's like this evolving process. So our guides see our spirit to spirit. They see who we innately are, and they see the growth that we are accruing and stepping into. Hey there, I wanted to take a brief moment to thank you so much for listening and being a part of Blessed by Angels podcast. I have found that our angelic team wants to help remind us who and why we are earthside at this present moment. The more that we remember the angelic support that we are given, the easier it is for us to live life to the fullest. So if this message or any of the previous messages from the podcast have really stuck out to you, I would encourage you to send them to anyone who you feel could benefit from the messages. Or if you feel prompted, I would love for you to leave a review on any of the platforms that you are listening on. I would love to hear your feedback. Blessings. So let's dive into this activity of, I even forgot where we were at, but we're just going to dive in here. So making a list of those things that bring you joy or bring connection into your space that make you feel alive and excited and lifting your energy. I want you to just close your eyes and set the intention that we're going to call upon a guide to show up for us here. And I want you to really focus in on that list that you wrote about the things that make you feel alive inside. Surrendering, turning the volume up on the right side. And now I want you to just ask your spirit guide, what is your name? And the first name that pops into your head, write that down. And from that point, we're going to have you write their name. So maybe it's Grant. Grant's spirit is ... And write that down. And maybe if you want to go a step further, Grant's spirit is ... whatever that is. And then ask, what are you here to help with? Or how do I know you're around? And just whatever the first thing is that pops into your mind, that feels in your body, that you're seeing in your mind, write that down. And maybe you want to try it a couple of times. If you're ready for another guide to show up, it's like, okay, I want to get to know my guides. What is your name? Write it down. So-and-so spirit is ... And you might feel like it's almost in your imagination. But for people who are very clairvoyant, who see things, a lot of it is in that imagination space. Is when delivering messages. Even today I had a session and there was a lady with hummingbirds all over, like more than I've ever seen before. And it wasn't that my room was literally full of hummingbirds. It was in my mind's eye, in that imagination state. I could see all these hummingbirds. And to me, that's a sign. To me, that shows that she's got a bunch of hummingbirds around her, whether it be a connection to her ancestors, to a grandmother, to somebody showing up. And it's acknowledging that area, because in truth, that area, that imagination state is our natural essence. It's what our spirit communicates in before it came here, while it's here, if we allow us to. And when we leave this world, we go back into that same flow, into that same space. And we're taught, children are so connected. They're so connected to their spiritual gifts. They're so aware of things. And maybe you as a child had a lot of depth, a lot of spirituality, a lot of gifts. And then you start sharing about it and your parents are like, nope, no way. You can't have that. What are you thinking? That's not okay. So we shut it down. But even Christ teaches to be as a child. To enter the kingdom of heaven, you must be as a little child. A little child has that innocence. They're in that state of connection until they're told it's bad or it's wrong or they have a scary experience. Then they close it down. So as we open that back up and we start to trust in what we're feeling or seeing in the realm just beyond us, it can help us to trust that divine guidance and that connection. And you might also feel when you say, what is your name? And you might feel a sense of excitement or a different presence that they bring. And that's something to notice too. If it's a very grounded essence, if it's someone who's very hyperactive, a lot of energy, does it make your heart flutter? Does it bring a different space in your body? How is that showing up for you? And maybe it's just something to practice, right? As all of these things take time and they take knowledge and they take practice, not even knowledge, but trust to have these connections and to know that it is your natural essence. It's who you've always been and who you will always be. And it's just remembering and trusting in that space. So we have a few minutes before we close up to answer any questions that you may have. And then we'll wrap it up here. Or if you wanted to share your experience, I know it seems really simple, but really connecting and having connection to our guides it can be simple and profound. It can be both, and it doesn't have to look a certain way. But when we can trust that we're guided and we can trust ourselves, we have a deeper connection and a deeper sense of purpose. There's a couple of resources that I also think would be pretty profound if you're wanting to really navigate or step into this. There is an amazing audiobook, and I would get the Audible because the Audible is seriously profound. But it's called Ask Your Guides. I don't know if you can see that. And it's by Sonia Quozet. And it's calling in your divine support system for help with everything in life. Ask your guides. And this is seriously one of my favorite books. She breaks down so many different elements. She talks about different kinds of guides along with your frequency, archangels, all the things. It's just a really great book. And such a beautiful, beautiful resource to really hone in on and to just deepen that if that feels aligned for you. Thank you for tuning in to the Blessed by Angels podcast. It is such an honor to deliver these messages from beyond. If you want to connect deeper to your angelic realm and the support team that you have, I have a plethora of resources on my website at blessedbyangels.org. And of course, I'll leave the link in the show notes. You are connected to the divine. Having divine connection is an innate ability that each and every one of us have. Before we came here, we were spirit. And after we leave this realm, we are introduced back into the spirit world. So having spirit-to-spirit conversations and knowings and understandings are innately and infinitely who you truly are. When we step into this body, we tend to forget. We are not separated from the divine. There is just a lack of remembrance. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast, and I look forward to delivering more messages from beyond.